Hey gang, I am Brian, and today we're going to be going over a couple of new Bluetti power stations. I've kind of shied away from reviewing power stations the last couple of months because in all honesty, they're all just kind of the same at this point. Nobody's really doing anything special that I can tell as of right now. But Bluetti asked if I would want to review this little setup here, and I looked at it really closely, and I think I want to show you guys what this thing is and what it's capable of, and see if it's right for you. Now this is the Bluetti AC60 and this is the Bluetti B80. This is the expansion battery. This is the actual power station. Why would you want this? Well, let's get into that and I'll kind of show you the features of this thing. But to start off with, if you buy this and if you buy this, it's gonna cost you $1,300. This is $6.99 on Amazon right now. This is $5.99 on Amazon right now. And you're probably thinking, well, gosh, I can get an AC200 Max for $1,600. I can get an AC200P for around $1,200. They have a little bit more capacity, a little bit more solar input capability, and a little bit bigger inverter in both of those two units than this does. So what makes this different? Well, I'm gonna let you decide, but this isn't gonna be your typical everyday battery station review where I go over every little port and everything. I really just wanna show you how to operate this and why it might be beneficial in your scenario. But I will go over a few important, I think, specs of this thing that I did test, and that is mainly the usable capacity. So how much can you actually squeeze out of this stuff in an everyday life situation? So I hooked up my DC test meter to this and I discharged this through the DC port, and I was able to get 347 watt hours off of the rated 403 watt hours built into this. Now these are both lithium iron phosphate batteries, by the way, so you're going to get over 3,000 to 5,000 cycles to 100% depth of discharge. If you don't ever discharge them down to zero, you're going to even double that cycle count. But I did an AC discharge test here on this main unit, and I was able to squeeze out 370 watt hours, or 92% efficient. That is one of the best power station results I've ever gotten off of the AC inverter. This thing is really, really efficient in terms of its inverter. 92%, that's pretty good. I then hooked up these two together and did an AC discharge test, which combined is gonna give you 1,209 watt hours. On my AC discharge test, I was able to get 1,136 watt hours pulled out of this setup when they were connected together. That's almost 94% efficient. That is the best result I've ever received off of any power stations that I've ever received. And typically, when you start building on the watt hours and the amount of capacity, your efficiency tends to start to decrease. In this aspect though, these Bluettis hooked together actually increased the efficiency rating, which is pretty neat. This has a 600 watt inverter. That's pretty small in my opinion. I would have loved to have seen this thing have at least a 1,200 watt inverter or a 1,500 watt inverter, but I believe they're just trying to keep this as minimal as possible. But 600 watts pure sine wave inverter, and Bluetti has one of their technologies where you can double that capacity to up to 1,200 watts on resistive loads. So things like a coffee maker, a heat gun, a blow dryer, things like that, it will run it at up to 1,200 watts. It's not gonna, start a full-size refrigerator or anything like that, but you can run resistive loads up to 1,200 watts. But on this main unit over here, you're going to, of course, get your standard 12-volt cigarette-style car charging outlet. You're going to get a 100 watt USB-C power delivery and two Dinosaur USB-A outputs over here on the side. But when you start to add in this other battery, you actually get extra ports, unlike things like EcoFlow, who when you buy their expansion battery, you just get the battery juice. You don't get any other ports off of that expansion battery. But this B80, you actually are going to get another USB-C 100 watt output port, and you're going to get a USB-A quick charge port on this one, as well as another 12-volt car cigarette style charger. So to answer your question, yes, you can use this battery as a standalone unit. You do not have to use this. Now we'll get into charging in just a little bit, but that's a pretty important feature that you can use these things separately. A lot of the EcoFlows you actually have to connect together to use the expansion battery. This one, all by itself. You can use it, you can take this in your car and use it just as is. Now this thing is a beast. It is built like an absolute tank. There is no, I don't know how to describe it. You just have to actually feel it and pick it up. but it is built like an absolute tank, as well as the AC60. Just a very well constructed little unit. And while I'm looking here, I did forget there also is a wireless charging pad up top as well. If you want to throw your phone up top or whatever that's wirelessly chargeable capable, you can put it on top of there too. But let's talk about how you charge these things, because that was what really kind of confused me at first. So this has 3 main charger settings. It's got a silent, a standard, and a turbo type mode that's going to go anywhere from around 150 watts for the silent setting to up to 250 watts for your standard charge setting and up to 500 watts for your turbo charge setting. If you don't need to charge up your power station fast, I recommend using silent. That's the best for these batteries, is to put in as little juice as possible. It's just a lot easier on the batteries, but it's got 3 different charging speeds. So it does not come with a charging brick. The actual charger is built into it. So all you're gonna get is this AC power cord that plugs right in here to the side, and you're gonna plug this into the wall. So that's kind of a bonus. You don't have to lug around another extra charging brick. For solar charging, you can charge this unit up by itself via the supplied solar charging cables, which if you remember back with when they released the EB3A, it did not come with this, and it created all kinds of havoc for the buyers that bought the EB3A. But finally, Bluetti did supply this DC7909 to MC4 adapters that plug it right in here to the side, and you can plug up your solar panel. Now this thing will accept pretty much your everyday basic 200 watt solar panel, or 12 to 28 volts worth. So you can't go plug in a big 400 or 500 watt solar panel because you'll fry it, but it'll max out at 200 watts up to 28 volts. So you can charge this unit up separately via solar, AC, or your standard DC cable that'll plug into a car, 12 volt car, cigarette style, or a 24 volt to your 7909. And you're only gonna get about 110 watts off of this thing if you plug it into your car. So it's gonna be a very slow charge if you use the DC. When you come over here to the B80 battery, this thing has its own MPPT controller built into it as well. So you can run, again, the same 200 watt solar panel, 12 to 28 volts, off of this battery completely separate. You do not have to hook up this expansion battery to the AC60 to charge it, which is a very good bonus. EcoFlow, at least from what I can recall, you have to connect the expansion battery to the main unit to charge up the expansion battery. These are very, very separated units. You do not have to connect them together to use them, and you do not have to connect them together to charge them. Now, one of the kind of funky things about this setup is when you connect this battery to the main AC60, it puts the batteries in parallel. So typically, on some of my EcoFlows, when you connect the expansion battery, it prioritizes the expansion battery first when you're discharging it. So it's going to, on my EcoFlow, it's going to reduce the capacity of the expansion battery. Once that's depleted, it'll start using the main unit battery to charge whatever I'm trying to run. This is a little bit different. When you connect these two, it puts the batteries in parallel and essentially creates just one big battery, and it slowly draws the capacity off of both, if that makes any sense. It just welds the batteries together. It doesn't prioritize this over this or this over this. It just becomes one battery. And when you charge it via AC to the AC60, when you plug it into the wall, you're gonna get around 500 watts if you're on the standard charging mode, because it's going to charge 250 watts into the power station and 250 watts into the expansion battery. So you're gonna see on the screen here, you're gonna get around 500 watts, which is what you can see here from this clip. Now, it was only getting around 480 watts because I started the camera a little too early. But once it starts to kind of cycle up, you're gonna get over 500 watts, and it's gonna charge both of these batteries at the same time. It's not gonna charge the expansion battery first and then charge this battery. It's just gonna kind of equalize the charge into the expansion battery and the main AC60. And if you're thinking about solar, how does solar work? So you can use one single MC4 to 7909 charging cable, plug it into the main AC60, and you're gonna get 200 watts on a perfect day of solar power charging up both of these units. What's interesting is you can get another one of these and plug it in to the input port on the expansion battery and get an additional 200 watts. So you can get up to 400 watts worth of solar power charging up these batteries if they are connected together. If they're separated, you can get 200 and 200. If they're connected, obviously you can get up to 400 watts of solar. So it kind of benefits you as the user to keep these connected if you've got more than 200 watts worth of solar panels. I hope you guys are following me, because this is way different than some of the other, and I keep mentioning EcoFlows, because they operate in a completely different way than how this little setup functions. Now, when you buy the B80 expansion battery, it's going to come with this connection cable, and it's super simple to connect. Let me show you how that works. Okay, so you're going to take your supplied connection cable, and it only goes on one way. So you're going to open up one of these expansion ports, and when you push in, it kind of clicks itself and locks itself into place, just like that. And then you're going to plug it into your main power station the same exact way, and it clicks into place. So now these two are essentially one unit, and we can turn it on, and you can see the screen here. Hopefully it's a very nice Bluetti LCD screen. It's going to have your input watts and your output watts, your actual battery meter, and your run time to empty, which gives you a good indication of how long you have left to run whatever device that you're currently running. Now, the other really strange benefit, if you can look at it that way, of this unit is this is IP65 water rated, which means this thing is supposed to be able to survive direct splashes of water from any angle. And I'm going to test that on this video. I have never used a garden hose on a test of a power station, but I'm going to take this out to the driveway, and we're going to turn on the water hose, and we're going to spray this thing down and come back in and see if it works. But that's what all of these gaskets are for. So every single port that you see on these Bluettis, it's got a waterproof gasket. Even on the AC outlets, that's what gives its IP65 water rating. Now, what's strange is, and I don't know how Bluetti did it, but there is still intake and outtake fans. So they have come up with a way that if water gets into these fan inlets, that water's going to somehow drain out of this unit. I don't know, but we're going to test it out. Okay, I feel oh so wrong doing this, but power station is on, and everything's closed up. Here we go. Wow. This is a first for me. All right. Let's go take this thing back inside now. All right, so hopefully you can see that I just pulled this thing in. This is still wet. And we're gonna plug in, gosh, I feel like I'm gonna electrocute myself, but I'm going to plug in this incandescent light bulb array. Get the inverter cut on. Wow. That is a first for me. Well, there we go, ladies and gentlemen. That is the first time I've ever put a water hose to any power station that I've ever looked at, and it works just fine. I don't know how they've done this, but it is for surely IP65 water rated. Now, this whole setup kind of puts me in a bit of a pickle because I don't know where it fits. It's got a 6-year warranty on this thing, which is above and beyond even EcoFlow that they offer right now. They offer a 5-year warranty, so Bluetti's one-upped them again and offered an extra year. So you get 6 years on this, and Bluetti's been around for a long time. So a lot of times the warranty is only as good as the company is, and I'm not here to discuss, if their customer service is good or bad because I don't have any experience with them, but they've been around for a long time, so I'm pretty sure 6-year warranty, you could eventually get some help out of it. It's not some no-name brand out of China. Now, who actually needs this unit? Well, I don't know. When you compare it to the AC200 Max and the AC200P, which in my mind seems to be a better buy. But if you truly need the water resistance capability, if you know that you're going to be using this thing out in the rain, if you're at the deer lease in a non-covered shelter, and it does have the potential to rain, this is really the only one on the market that I know of that can handle that type of environment. And if you don't need the full almost 1,200 watt hours worth of juice, you don't have to connect these. You can, put this in your truck and not use it until you actually need it, bring it out to camp, put it on top, connect the two together, and you've got almost a 1,200 watt hour power station. I do wish the inverter was a little bit more powerful, 600 watts, but I think they were, again, trying to keep the size factor a little bit small in this. So it just depends on your needs. If you can physically lift up the big, huge AC200 Max, I don't really see a need to get one of these. But if you do need over 1,000 watt hours worth of power stations and you just physically can't move around one of those big, bulky, heavy power stations, this is a really good option because you can connect a second one of these B80s up to this, giving you almost 2,000 watt hours if you buy 2 of these expansion batteries. So it fits a really weird niche in the market, and there's nothing else quite like it that I know of. So I think it's a pretty unique, pretty innovative little power station from Bluetti, and the quality on these things, just from me testing it these past few weeks, has been phenomenal. Long term, I don't know. I haven't had it for that long, but I can tell you that just the build quality on this thing, the way that they feel in the hands, the heft of them, built phenomenally well, as is most of Bluetti's products. But gang, that is the AC60 and the B80. I hope some of that information helped, and if I didn't cover it well enough, shoot me a comment and I'll try to answer it for you better in the comments, because I know when I first got this, I was a little confused with how the charging works, how the discharging works, because they're a little bit different than every other power station that I have that can't have an expansion battery hooked up to it. So I think this way makes it really easy. You don't have to even think about it. It just connects and becomes one unit. There's not any thinking about what battery is going to be used first. If you use solar, what battery is going to that charge first. It just becomes one unit, and it's very, very user friendly. And last thing I will mention is this does have an app that comes with it where you can change the charging speed, you can download the firmware and all that stuff. But the good thing about the app, you don't have to have the app to run this power station. And I get that question asked a lot. If you don't have a cell service, if you just don't want to download the app, can you still use these power stations? And the answer is absolutely yes. You do not need the app. You don't even have to use the app if you don't want it. But it does come equipped with an app if you do need it. I hope that answers some questions. If not, shoot me a comment and I will hopefully get back to you very soon. So until next time, folks, take care. We'll see you soon.